As the golden light of the late afternoon spills over the African savanna, the landscape transforms into a stunning canvas of warmth and tranquility. The vast, dry plains stretch endlessly in all directions, punctuated by scattered acacia trees whose twisted branches reach out toward the open sky. The grass here grows sparse, brownish and pale under the oppressive sun, and the earth itself seems to hold the heat of the day in its cracked surface. The scent of dry earth fills the air, mingling with the distant, musky undertones of wild animals that roam the open plains. The African savanna is a place that speaks of resilience, beauty, and the subtle power of nature. Yet in this moment, it is more than just a land of survival. It is a place of rare peace, one that invites reflection. In the late afternoon, just before the sun sets, the savanna seems to come alive in a different way. The golden hue of the light transforms the plains into an otherworldly realm. The sky, a soft blend of oranges, pinks, and purples, meets the horizon in a seamless transition. There is a softness in the air as the temperature cools, and a breeze stirs gently across the landscape, carrying the scents of dried grass and distant wildflowers. This time, just before sunset, offers a rare chance to pause and appreciate the beauty of the African wilderness as it exists without the urgency of survival and hunting, where time almost feels suspended. The acacia trees stand in solitude, each one distinct in its gnarled shape. Their long, thin branches stretch toward the heavens, like arms reaching for something unattainable. Their leaves, sparse and fragile, sway slightly in the wind. These trees are a symbol of endurance, capable of surviving in the harshest conditions. And yet in this moment, they are mere figures against the backdrop of the vibrant sky, adding a haunting beauty to the scene. The ground around them is littered with fallen branches and leaves, remnants of what was once vibrant and full of life, now left to dry in the warmth of the sun. The light filters through the branches, casting long, stretching shadows across the earth, emphasizing the loneliness and stillness of the landscape. The animals of the savanna, typically busy with the urgency of daily life, grazing, hunting, or seeking water, are quieter now. The oppressive heat of the day has given way to the calming coolness of evening, and many creatures are finding respite in the shade or under the cover of the sparse trees. A lone giraffe grazes lazily in the distance, its long neck reaching toward the highest branches, while a herd of antelope moves slowly across the horizon, their delicate forms barely visible in the tall grasses. The air hums with the sound of insects, their soft buzzing a background to the otherwise peaceful stillness. There is a rare moment when two different species find themselves in a shared space, momentarily connected by the unspoken bond of the natural world. A lioness, sleek and powerful, moves through the tall grasses with the grace of a phantom. Her golden coat blends almost perfectly with the surrounding landscape, making her presence seem almost unreal. She pauses, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon, looking for any sign of movement. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of the air and the distant prey. But for now, the lioness remains still, her body poised and alert. Her gaze shifts toward the distant acacia trees. where a small herd of zebras are grazing. The moment feels suspended in time as the lioness stands, perfectly motionless, absorbing the silence of the moment. There is no immediate danger, no sense of urgency. She is simply another creature in this vast ecosystem, at one with the land, feeling the same warmth of the sun and the coolness of the evening breeze. The zebras, unaware of the lioness's presence, continue to graze, their heads down as they munch on the sparse grass. Their black and white stripes stand in sharp contrast to the muted tones of the savanna. Yet they blend into the landscape in their own way. In this fleeting moment, they are not prey or predator. They are simply a part of the same world, sharing space, sharing time, in a harmony that is rare in the everyday rush of the wild. For a moment, the lioness and the zebras exist in the same space, in the same moment, and there is a quiet connection between them. There is no chase, no fight. The lioness is not hunting. She is simply present, sharing this time in the wilderness as the golden light fades into dusk. The zebras, unaware, continue their peaceful grazing, their movements slow and unhurried. There is a sense of mutual respect. Even if unspoken, the savanna is a place where life and death are inextricably linked. Yet at this moment, there is only life, a brief, quiet interlude before the inevitable return to the natural cycle of the land. The wind picks up again, carrying with it the sound of distant birds, their calls echoing across the open plains. The sky above continues to deepen in color, transitioning from golden to purple. And soon, the first stars begin to appear in the sky. The lioness takes a final glance at the zebras before turning, her silhouette fading into the shadows of the acacia trees. The zebras, still unaware of the danger that could have been, remain grazing as the last rays of sunlight slip away. As the sun sets completely, the savanna transforms once more. The temperature drops further, and the stillness of the evening takes over. The quiet is profound now, broken only by the sounds of night creatures beginning to stir. The stars above shine brightly in the clear, unpolluted sky, and the first whispers of nighttime predators can be heard. The landscape, once golden and vibrant, now takes on a darker, more somber tone. The golden hour, so full of peace and reflection, has passed, but its memory lingers in the air, held by the animals who continue to live their lives in this vast, ancient land. In this moment of stillness, there is no rush. The lioness, the zebras, the acacia trees, and the plains, they are all part of something much larger. The savanna is a place of harsh realities and fleeting beauty, where life and death are woven together in an intricate dance. But for now, there is only the quiet, golden moment before the night takes over. And in this moment, there is peace. Mossy, the mighty silverback gorilla, sat atop a high cliff that overlooked his domain. His muscular frame, covered in thick silvery fur, was a testament to his strength and experience. His presence was commanding, yet there was an undeniable sense of serenity that emanated from him. His deep-set eyes, dark like the shadows of the jungle, were focused on the horizon. They seemed to hold a wisdom that came from years of living among the wild. Mossy wasn't just a protector of his land, but a guardian of the delicate balance of nature. He had learned through countless seasons that power wasn't just about brute strength. It was about knowing when to act and when to observe. His territory was vast, the dense forest around him teeming with life. It was a place where animals of all shapes and sizes came to find shelter, food, and safety. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and foliage, a fragrance that was both invigorating and grounding. Mossy's domain was sacred to him, a place that had witnessed countless sunrises and sunsets, and he would go to any length to ensure its protection. But unlike other creatures who ruled with an iron fist, Mossy had a different approach. His reign was marked by calm authority, the kind that commanded respect without the need for force. Mossy had earned his title not through aggression, but through his ability to read the land, to understand the rhythms of the forest and the animals that roamed it. His silverback status was not just a physical distinction. It was a mark of his leadership, of the respect he had earned from the other creatures of the forest. His calm demeanor and deep understanding of the world around him made him a figure that both feared and revered. Yet, despite his imposing figure and the respect he commanded, Mossy was not a solitary creature. He valued the companionship of his troop, particularly the young ones. Like Zuri, the young lioness, was a different kind of force in the wild. Her golden-brown coat, soft and almost luminous in the sunlight, gave her an ethereal appearance. She moved with the grace of a dancer, her every step calculated and deliberate. But beneath her calm, composed exterior, there was a storm of untapped power, a strength that had yet to be fully realized. Zuri was still learning, still growing into the lioness she would one day become. She was young, curious, and filled with a sense of wonder that was both captivating and dangerous. Zuri had grown up in the wild, learning from the elders of her pride, but she was still in the process of discovering her place in the world. She had witnessed Mossy's strength from afar, watching him as he moved through the forest with the effortless authority of one who had lived many lives. Mossy was a figure she respected, and in some ways, he represented everything she aspired to be. He was the embodiment of patience, wisdom, and control. There was something about his quiet power that intrigued her, and she found herself drawn to him in a way she couldn't fully explain. One afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the forest, Zuri found herself wandering through Mossy's territory. She had come to explore, driven by her curiosity and the desire to learn. As she moved through the dense underbrush, her ears pricked up at the sound of something moving through the trees. Her sharp eyes quickly scanned the area, and there, emerging from the shadows, was Mossy. The silverback was sitting against a large tree, his massive frame blending seamlessly with the surroundings. He didn't seem surprised to see her. He simply watched her with those deep, knowing eyes. Zuri approached cautiously, her movements slow and deliberate. She had seen Mossy in action before, but this was different. There was no urgency, no threat, just the quiet understanding of two creatures in the same space. "Why do you come here, little one?" Mossy's voice was deep and steady. like the rumble of thunder in the distance. Zuri stopped a few feet away, her golden eyes meeting his. I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand how you do it. How you remain so calm. Mossy tilted his head slightly, considering her words. Calm does not come easily. Young one. It is earned through experience. It is born from knowing the land, knowing its rhythms, and knowing yourself. Zuri sat down, her tail flicking behind her. But how do you know when to act? How do you know when to fight and when to stand still? Mossy's gaze shifted to the horizon, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the landscape. The land speaks to us. If we listen, it tells us when the winds are shifting, when danger is near, and when peace reigns. I have learned to listen closely, to wait for the right moment. The world is full of noise, little one, but if you are still enough, you can hear what matters. Zuri's eyes widened, her curiosity piqued. And what about the power? How do you control it? Mossy chuckled softly, the sound rumbling through his chest. Power is not something to control, young one. It is something to understand. True power comes from knowing when to use it and when not to. Strength is not measured by how hard you can strike, but by how wisely you can use your force. Zuri sat in silence, absorbing his words. She had always thought of power as something she could wield, something that could be used to dominate. But Mossy's words had given her a new perspective, one that was both humbling and empowering. As the evening sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the world in hues of orange and pink, Zuri remained beside Mossy, silently contemplating the lessons he had shared. There was something about his presence that made her feel safe, as though the world, with all its dangers and uncertainties, could be navigated with patience and wisdom. She realized, in that moment, that she had much to learn, not just from the land, but from those who had walked it longer. Mossy, sensing that Zuri's mind was racing with thoughts, broke the silence once more. You are young, Zuri, you have much to discover, much to grow into, but do not rush. The land will teach you in time. You must only be patient. Zuri nodded, her gaze turning toward the setting sun. The colors of the sky seemed to shift and change. Just as she was. She had always known that there was more to the world than what she had been taught by her pride. But now, with Mossy's guidance, she saw that there was a deeper truth to be uncovered. The forest, the plains, the very earth beneath her paws, there was a rhythm to it all. One that she had yet to fully understand. But she was beginning to see it, just as Mossy had, and that, she realized, was the first step. In the days that followed, Zuri continued to visit Mossy, learning from him not just about the land, but about herself. She was no longer just a curious cub. She was a young lioness, learning to harness her own power and strength, guided by the wisdom of the silverback who had seen it all. And Mossy, the stoic and wise protector of the land, saw in Zuri not just the future of her pride, but the future of the savanna itself. With patience, wisdom, and a quiet strength, the two of them would continue to walk the land together, each learning from the other as they embraced the challenges and beauty of the wild. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting a golden glow over the sprawling savanna. The vast plains seemed endless. The grass now tinged with hues of amber and gold as the day gradually gave way to evening. Zuri, the young lioness, had spent the day wandering, her curious instincts guiding her through the wilderness. The search for food, shelter, and understanding had taken her across wide stretches of the land. And now, as the heat of the afternoon faded, a different need was beginning to make itself known. Thirst, a dry, burning sensation in her throat made her slow her pace and scan the horizon. Zuri's movements were graceful, though there was a subtle weariness in her steps now. Her golden-brown coat shimmered under the setting sun, but she couldn't shake the feeling of exhaustion. The land around her was vast and unforgiving, and though she was accustomed to the challenges it presented, today had been particularly taxing. She had strayed farther than usual from the safety of her pride, exploring the more remote corners of the savanna. And now she was in search of water. She was beginning to feel the heaviness of the day weigh on her. The air was still, not even a breeze to cool her, and the earth beneath her paws was parched. The nearby trees offered no immediate shade, and the few waterholes she had come across were already dry. As Zuri continued her search, her eyes scanned the land, but her movements were slower now, her body craving the refreshment that only water could provide. She needed to find it soon. It was then, in the distance, that she saw him, Mossy, the silverback gorilla, who had become an enigmatic figure in her young life, stood in the clearing near a patch of sparse trees. His massive form was unmistakable against the backdrop of the golden grasses, his muscular frame blending seamlessly with the earth. The coolness of the evening had begun to settle over the savanna. But Mossy remained motionless, a figure of quiet authority. Zuri hesitated for a moment. She had not expected to find Mossy out here. But there he was, calm and composed, as though he had been waiting for her. She wasn't sure why she felt drawn to him, but there was something about his presence that calmed the nervous energy in her chest. Mossy wasn't just a protector of his land. He was also a guardian of the stillness that existed within it. His wisdom, his ability to be at one with the natural world, had always intrigued her. As she began to approach, Zuri noticed that Mossy's eyes were already on her. They were soft but focused, a gaze that spoke of years of experience and understanding. Mossy didn't move at first, but his presence seemed to acknowledge her need. He wasn't rushing, nor was he concerned. He had seen this many times before, young creatures wandering in search of something, learning their way through the world. Zuri, her throat dry and her body tired, hesitated at a distance. She could feel the gnawing discomfort of thirst. And yet, she wasn't sure how to approach him. There was a certain wariness in her, despite the fact that Mossy had always been a figure of respect and calm. But as she took a few steps closer, something in his demeanor reassured her. Mossy, without a word, reached down to the ground, his large hands brushing against the earth. In one smooth motion, he gathered a large, broad leaf, bending it slightly in the center. He paused for a moment, his gaze still fixed on her, before he slowly, deliberately filled the leaf with water from a small stream that trickled through the nearby rocks. The water sparkled in the low light, reflecting the colors of the setting sun. Mossy then held the leaf up toward Zuri, the makeshift vessel of water waiting for her to take it. Zuri stood still for a moment, her instincts telling her to be cautious. She was still young, still learning, and a part of her questioned the unfamiliar gesture. But there was no sign of threat in Mossy's stance. His body language was open, and the calmness in his eyes seemed to offer a reassurance that was impossible to ignore. There was no rush, no expectation, just a quiet invitation. Zuri lowered her head slightly, her gaze locked with Mossy's. It wasn't that she was afraid, she had seen enough of Mossy's strength and wisdom to know he meant no harm, but there was an unfamiliarity in the situation. She had never taken anything from a gorilla before, let alone accepted something as intimate as water. But the weariness of the day, the thirst that burned within her, outweighed her hesitation. The heat of the day still lingered in her bones as she lowered her head closer to the leaf. She could smell the cool, clear water, and her tongue flicked out instinctively. At first, she was tentative, the water cooling the burning sensation in her throat. It was refreshing, more satisfying than she had expected. The water was pure, the taste crisp and clean, as if it had been drawn from the heart of the earth itself. Zuri licked the surface of the leaf again, the coolness of it soothing her parched throat. Mossy watched her with quiet approval, his eyes soft but steady. He made no sound, offering no words, simply allowing the moment to pass in the stillness of the evening. Zuri, feeling the coolness of the water working through her body, began to relax. Her muscles, once tense from the strain of the day, started to loosen. The exhaustion began to fade as the water gave her the energy she had been missing. When she finished drinking, she raised her head, feeling the sense of relief wash over her. She felt stronger now, though not just physically. There was something deeper, a quiet understanding, that had settled within her. She glanced at Mossy again, his massive form still standing there like a sentinel in the twilight. There was a deep connection in that moment, one that went beyond words. Mossy had offered her something not just out of necessity, but out of kindness, and perhaps even a kind of mentorship. Zuri's ears twitched, her golden eyes meeting his once more. She felt a surge of gratitude, something she hadn't fully expected. It wasn't just the water that had given her strength, it was the gesture itself. The recognition of her need, and the patience with which Mossy had responded. Mossy finally spoke, his deep voice breaking the silence. "You must never rush through the world, Zuri. Sometimes, the best way to move forward is to pause and listen. The land has its own rhythm, and you must learn to follow it, just as you have learned to listen to your own thirst." Zuri nodded slowly, her tail flicking gently behind her. She had always known there was wisdom in the world, but in this moment, it felt as though she had just scratched the surface. She felt an understanding that she had not possessed before, an understanding that power didn't always come from strength or speed. Sometimes, it came from patience, from knowing when to rest and when to act. As the last light of the sun dipped below the horizon, Mossy turned to leave, his great form disappearing into the shadows of the trees. Zuri, feeling replenished, stayed for a moment longer, reflecting on the quiet lesson she had just received. The night was coming, but with it, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that she was no longer just a young lioness wandering the savanna. She was learning to listen, learning to understand, and in time, she would find her own rhythm in the world, just as Mossy had. And with that thought, Zuri began her journey back, the cool night air brushing against her fur, the land beneath her paws as vast and wild as it had always been. But now, she understood it a little better. In the vast, arid expanse of the African savanna, water is not just a necessity, it is a lifeline. It is the embodiment of life itself, the very essence that sustains the delicate balance of the ecosystem. For the creatures that roam this land, the need for water transcends all boundaries of species. It is an equalizer, a force that unites and connects all living beings in a shared, fundamental need. Water, in its purity and simplicity, has the power to bridge even the most profound divides between predator and prey, between those who must survive and those who must protect. In the midst of this harsh environment, where survival is often dictated by instinct and competition, a rare moment of compassion and understanding unfolds. The lioness, Zuri, a creature born of strength and instinct, finds herself at a crossroads. She is thirsty, exhausted from the day's journey across the hot, dusty plains, and in her vulnerability, she seeks water, a fundamental need that all creatures share. Yet, her search leads her to a moment of unexpected connection, not with another lioness, nor with her pride, but with Mossy, a silverback gorilla, a creature from a world vastly different from her own. Mossy, the protector of his domain, is a being of quiet power and wisdom. He moves through the world with a calm authority that comes from years of experience and understanding. As a silverback, he has seen the ebb and flow of life in the jungle, and he knows that strength alone is not enough to maintain balance. There is a deeper connection between all living things, one that transcends the natural order of predator and prey. And in this moment, Mossy recognizes Zuri's need, not just as a fellow creature of the land, but as an individual who, like him, is part of the greater whole. The act of offering water, a simple gesture, becomes a profound symbol of this understanding. The water itself, held in the leaf, represents the fundamental connection between all life forms. It is a shared resource, something that cannot be hoarded or controlled by any one species. Water is the great equalizer, the lifeblood that flows through every creature's veins, regardless of their place in the food chain. It is the substance that sustains and nurtures. And in this moment, it serves as the medium through which Mossy and Zuri find common ground. The leaf, too, holds symbolic weight. It is not just a vessel for the water, but a symbol of nature's generosity. The leaf, large and sturdy, has been shaped by the forces of the environment to serve a greater purpose. Its role in this moment is simple yet profound. It is the means through which the gorilla can share his resources, his strength, and his compassion with another. It is a gesture of kindness. A quiet act of giving that transcends the usual roles of predator and prey. By using the leaf, Mossy shows Zuri not just the way to water, but the way to coexist. How? In this vast, often brutal world, acts of compassion can create bonds that defy the natural order. This encounter, brief as it may be, becomes a powerful symbol of coexistence. It is a moment where two creatures from different worlds, one a fierce predator, the other a wise protector, find a way to connect on a deeper level. It is a reminder that, despite the fierce competition that exists in nature, there are moments where empathy and understanding can bridge even the most seemingly insurmountable divides. For Zuri, this moment is transformative. As a young lioness, she has been taught to trust her instincts, to rely on her strength and cunning to navigate the world. She has been raised to understand the dynamics of the savanna, where life and death are intertwined in an eternal struggle. But in this encounter with Mossy, she begins to see the world in a new light. She realizes that survival is not just about strength, but also about knowing when to pause, when to listen, and when to accept the kindness of others. The water from the leaf is not just a source of physical sustenance. It is a gift that nourishes her spirit and opens her eyes to the possibility of a deeper connection with the world around her. For Mossy, the act of offering the water is not just about fulfilling a need. It is a moment of leadership, of teaching, of guiding Zuri toward a greater understanding of the land and the creatures that inhabit it. Mossy has lived through countless seasons, witnessed the rise and fall of many beings, and he knows that the true strength of a leader lies not in his ability to dominate, but in his capacity for empathy and care. By sharing the water, he offers Zuri a lesson in humility and compassion, values that will serve her as she grows into the powerful lioness she is destined to become. This brief encounter is a symbol of the possibility of peace, of understanding, and of coexistence in a world that often seems ruled by the harsh realities of survival. It is a reminder that the natural world is not defined solely by predation and competition, but also by moments of shared humanity, moments where creatures of different natures can come together, if only for a fleeting instant. In this moment, Zuri and Mossy are not predator and prey, but two beings united by a simple, shared need: water. The symbolism of this moment extends beyond the individual connection between Zuri and Mossy. It speaks to a larger truth about the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. The savanna, the jungle, the forests and plains, they are all part of the same web of existence, where every creature plays a role, and where every moment of life, whether it is a life taken or a life shared, is part of a greater cycle. Water, as a symbol of life, is at the heart of this cycle. It is the element that sustains, that connects, and that nurtures. In this way, the simple act of sharing water becomes a profound statement about the power of unity, compassion, and the recognition that all creatures are interdependent. As the sun dips lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the savanna, Zuri lifts her head from the leaf, her thirst quenched, her body revitalized. She looks up at Mossy, her golden eyes meeting his dark gaze. There is no need for words between them. The gesture speaks volumes. It is a moment of quiet understanding, of mutual respect, and of the recognition that, for this brief time, they are not enemies, but companions in the great, wild dance of life. Mossy turns slowly, his powerful form moving gracefully through the tall grass. And Zuri follows, her steps lighter now, her body and spirit renewed. The landscape around them is vast and endless. But in this moment, it feels smaller, more intimate, as if the world itself has paused to acknowledge the bond that has been formed. The water has nourished them. The leaf has carried the message of nature's generosity. And the encounter has brought them closer to an understanding that transcends the natural roles they were born into. In the fading light of the day, the savanna holds its breath, as if watching over this rare and meaningful moment. For Zuri and Mossy, the encounter is over, but the connection remains, etched in their hearts and minds. A reminder that, even in the wild, there is always room for compassion, for kindness, and for the possibility of unity. In the grand scheme of things, it is but a fleeting moment. But for both of them, it is a moment that will echo in their souls for a long time to come. As Zuri finished drinking, the cool water trickling down her throat, she raised her head, her golden eyes meeting Mossy's deep gaze. There was no need for words between them. In that quiet moment, the silence spoke volumes. Her eyes, soft yet full of gratitude, reflected a depth of feeling that was almost too much to express. The water had quenched her thirst. Yes, but the exchange between them, the simple yet profound act of sharing, had touched something deeper inside her. It was not just a physical need that had been met, it was an emotional one. Too, Zuri felt a connection, a bond that transcended the natural order of predator and prey, a recognition that in this moment, they were not enemies but two beings connected by a common thread. Mossy, in turn, felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of contentment that came not from having fulfilled a duty, but from having offered something more than just sustenance. His gaze remained steady, protective, almost paternal. He had seen many creatures come and go in his lifetime, and he had learned the value of patience, the importance of understanding, and the deep power of empathy. In Zuri, he saw a young soul still learning, still growing, and it reminded him of his own journey, a journey that had taken him through many seasons, many challenges, and countless lessons. And now, in this brief, quiet exchange, he felt a sense of fulfillment, a sense that he had shared something valuable, not just water, but a lesson in compassion and connection. The world around them seemed to hold its breath in that moment. The setting sun bathed the savanna in a warm, golden light, casting long shadows across the land. The soft, whispering wind rustled through the grasses, and the distant calls of birds echoed through the quiet air. It was a peaceful stillness, a moment of rare tranquility in a world that was often defined by struggle and survival. Here, in this brief pause, the harsh realities of the wild were set aside, if only for a moment, and what remained was something pure and simple, an understanding between two creatures who, despite their differences, had found a quiet harmony. Zuri sat silently for a moment longer. Her body no longer burdened by thirst. She could feel the weight of the day lifting off her shoulders, replaced by a new sense of clarity. The exhaustion that had settled deep within her seemed to fade, replaced by a lightness in her chest. It wasn't just the water that had revitalized her. It was the gesture of kindness. The simple act of being seen, of having her need acknowledged by someone who didn't have to care, but chose to. The gift of water was more than just a physical offering. It was a gesture that said, "I see you, I understand you." It was a connection that spoke to something deeper within her, a recognition of her vulnerability and a quiet act of protection. For Mossy, the moment was equally meaningful. As a silverback gorilla, he had seen his fair share of struggles, both within his own troop and in the larger world around him. He had witnessed the harsh realities of the wild, the constant battle for survival, and the sometimes brutal instincts that governed the lives of the creatures who inhabited the savanna. Yet, in this moment, there was no fight, no struggle, there was only a shared silence, a quiet recognition that they were both part of the same world. And that world, for a fleeting moment, was marked by compassion and care. Mossy had lived long enough to understand that power, strength, and survival were not the only forces at play in the wild. He knew that true strength lay in the ability to connect with others, to offer kindness even in a world that often demanded the opposite. It wasn't about dominating or controlling. It was about knowing when to stand firm and when to show gentleness. In offering Zuri the water, he wasn't just giving her something to drink. He was offering her something much more profound, the knowledge that she was not alone. That even in the harshest of environments, there was space for empathy, for compassion, for care. It was a lesson in the importance of balance, in the understanding that all creatures, no matter their size or strength, had needs that went beyond their immediate survival. As the sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the grass, Mossy and Zuri sat in companionable silence. The land around them seemed to slow, as if acknowledging the significance of the moment. The golden light that bathed the savanna created a warm, peaceful atmosphere, and for a brief time, the harshness of the wild seemed to fade into the background. There was no need for words between them, none were necessary. The quiet understanding they shared spoke louder than anything that could be said. In the vastness of the savanna, in a world full of noise and chaos, this moment of stillness and connection stood out like a quiet beacon. A reminder that there was more to life than survival. For Zuri, the experience had opened something within her, something she had not known existed. She had been raised to view the world through the lens of instinct and strength, to rely on her own abilities to survive. But in this moment, she realized that strength was not just about the ability to hunt or defend, it was also about knowing when to accept help, when to recognize the value of kindness, and when to connect with others. She had always seen herself as an individual, separate from the world around her. But now, with Mossy's silent offering, she understood that she was part of something much bigger. The wild was not just a place of competition. It was a place of connection, of shared moments that transcended the natural roles each creature was born into. Mossy's silent protection, the way he had offered the water without hesitation, without expectation, spoke to a wisdom that Zuri had not fully appreciated before. He was a guardian not just of his own land, but of the values that sustained life in the savanna: patience, understanding, and empathy. These were not qualities she had often associated with strength. But in this moment, she saw that they were its foundation. True strength, Zuri realized, lay not in the ability to overpower, but in the ability to care, to offer something freely, without the expectation of anything in return. Mossy's act of kindness had changed something inside her, had shifted her understanding of the world and her place within it. As the light continued to fade, and the first stars began to appear in the sky, the moment passed. Mossy stood slowly, his powerful form rising effortlessly from the ground. And without a word, he began to move away, his massive frame disappearing into the shadows of the trees. Zuri, still feeling the warmth of the moment, watched him go. She knew, deep within her, that this encounter would stay with her for a long time. It was a lesson, a gift that she would carry with her as she continued her journey. She had learned something about herself, about the world, and about the power of connection. The savanna, vast and wild as it was, had, for a brief moment, been reduced to a simple truth: that even in a world ruled by survival, there was room for compassion, for kindness, and for the possibility of understanding. And as Zuri rose to follow Mossy's path, she felt a quiet sense of peace settle within her. The world was still large and full of challenges, but she was no longer just a young lioness lost in the vastness. She was a part of the wild, a part of the land, and she had learned that in the wild, it wasn't just the strongest who survived. It was those who understood the value of connection, of sharing, and of the quiet moments that spoke louder than any roar.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.